through some of God's Word with you today. I want you to understand something, that God is for you. That came across so strong in that song, and I just absolutely love it. God is for you. It's a story of, we've just come through Christmas and we celebrated the birth of Christ in a manger, in animal stalls. But he came this first time mainly for the household of Israel, because they had strayed, they had wandered away from God, and he came to pull them back and give them a way for salvation. And after he ministered to Israel, then he would begin to minister to the Gentile. And he already had decided that Paul would be one of the leaders in reaching the Gentile nations. All of that came about. But right in the middle of his ministry to Israel, there's a Gentile lady that interrupted him. We see the story in Matthew chapter 15. I'm going to read verses 21 through 28, and you can follow along with me. And I'm entitling this message, and it's part 1, A Crumb from His Hand. Leaving that place. And when I read something like that, it always intrigues me. So I want to find out what that place was. I mean, he's leaving it. And I want to know what it was. It was the place of the Gadarenes. And we preached last time on the maniac of the Gadarenes. Jesus was there ministering a much needed victory over a whole legion of demons. So he was leaving that place. His work there was done. And he withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him crying out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly." Jesus did not answer a word. So his disciples came to him and urged him, "Send her away, for she keeps crying after us." And he answered, and he directed it toward the lady, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." The woman came and knelt before him, and that's not very strong in the NIV, because in the wording, the original, she came and threw herself at his feet. "Lord, help me," she said. And he replied, "It's not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." I love what she says. Yes, it is, Lord. She corrected Jesus. Can you imagine that? Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table. Then Jesus said to her, Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted. And her daughter was healed at that moment. Oh, this has so much to say to us. So much we can learn from this. And I'm so glad that you're here today. Sandy, good to see you, man. I'm glad you're doing better. Does anybody in this room or watching by digital have a desperate need in your life? I suspect that most all of us, everyone under the sound of my voice, has many needs in their life. In fact, I'll go a step further and say that most people in this room have major needs in their lives. And you do not see how that need can be met. And if you don't see how that the need can be met, that makes one desperate. So when we have a tremendous need in our lives or our family or whatever, then we become desperate if we see no way out. There's no door leading from this problem. Some people that are listening or watching or sitting here today are looking at devastating family needs in your life. Son, daughter, parents, in-laws, whatever. Some of you are looking at financial difficulties. If you're breathing, most of us have that problem. Some are looking at a problem with a child. Some are looking at their own soul and they're realizing, hey, I'm lost. I have no hope. Some are looking at disease, and the doctor shook their head and said, nothing I can do. And you're wondering, what lies ahead for me? Some are looking at their parents and realizing they're not going to be here forever. It's not going to be long before I'll be alone. I could literally stand here all day today and not exhaust the list of problems that some people are facing today. In the midst of your problem, you need someone to help. When you have a problem and you don't see a solution, you need somebody to come and stand with you that can help point out a solution. You need someone who can turn you in the right direction to find an end to this problem. What you need is God to work in your life, because God is the answer to every problem and the situation that you might be facing. You don't need Him to lift every burden that you've got, just the heaviest one, this one. You don't need Him to move every mountain that's in your life, just the highest one. This one. You don't need God to give you a whole loaf. Just a crumb. A tidbit. Something. This situation that we're looking at in this passage today, Jesus is approached by a mother. And she finds herself in a desperate situation and does not know anything else to do. She needs something in her life now. She comes to the Lord, and as she does, she's not asking for a whole loaf. She's only asking for a crumb, a little. She knows that a little crumb is better than nothing. But a crumb from Jesus will be sufficient. As I share this text today, I want you to get something from it. I don't want you to leave the same as you came. I want you to receive something from this message, this text today. I want you to know that there is hope for your situation, no matter what it is. So no matter what you think you need today, God holds the key that will open that box. I want to take this text and the plight of this poor woman and share a few thoughts that will teach us that a crumb from his hand is more than enough. It's like the centurion said about his servant, Lord, just speak the word and it'll be done. So what we need is a word. We need a Jesus moment. When he speaks the word, when he gives the crumb. So let's examine this passage together and see what the help is for us today. This woman comes to Jesus and brings a petition. So the woman's petition is listed right here, Matthew 15:22. A Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to him crying out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly. The reason she came was her daughter. She was concerned about her daughter. Something was going on. Her daughter was not like she used to be. The child was demon-possessed. The King James says, grievously vexed. The terminology that was in the original, she was controlled. And she was probably acting out in violence and anger. And she was absolutely uncontrollable. She couldn't control. The mama couldn't control. This mother needed help in a desperate way. The reason that she cried out, and that word cried, it's still a little bit weak. It means to, in distress, holler, scream, cry out, shouting loudly with tears. This woman was following behind Jesus and his disciples, pleading with him. Please help. I need him to help. Why was she so frantic at that moment? Because her heart was absolutely crushed. It was broken beyond any words of description because of her child. And she became determined to get her child the help that she needed, and this man had the answer. There was a reason that she called out to him. In recording this event, Mark chapter 7, verse 25, same event, he puts a little caveat in there. She had heard about him. Perhaps she had heard how Jesus healed all manner of diseases. Perhaps she heard how he had opened the eyes of the blind and unstopped the ears of the deaf. About how he had driven demons out of others. She may have even heard how Jesus had gone across the sea over in the Gadarenes and delivered a man who was possessed by a legion of demons. 600 of them or so. She may have said, if he can deliver that man from a legion of demons, surely he can deliver my daughter from one grip of the devil. This woman came to Jesus because faith and hope had been triggered inside of her. That's why we need to dwell in this book, because it'll build faith and hope down inside of us. We'll see that he is the answer. It's not enough to listen here and to listen to some spitting old man tell all about it. You need to read it for yourself and let it be born down inside of you so that you can stand up in faith, in hope, and push everything aside to get to him. Something had been sparked in her heart. She needed something that society could not provide. It's been unable to provide. There's no help out there. She was looking for something that her dead religion had been powerless to give her. And there's so many that's walking in a dead religious society. There's no life. Jesus is not real to them. Jesus is not powerful to them. Jesus don't even care. He's up there somewhere. She needed a solution that had not been able to be provided by all of her own efforts. She was desperate. And she saw Jesus as her only hope. There was no alternative, no other way. She can't turn to the left, she can't turn to the right. That's the answer right there. How many of us can identify with this anxious mother, this heartbroken, crushed mom? Perhaps you're dealing with a child that's out of control and you've thrown up your hands and said, I've done everything I know to do. Perhaps you're at your wits' end over a situation, financial. You've tried to save. You've tried to cut expenses. You've tried to find ways to make more, and nothing's working. You just sink deeper and deeper. Perhaps you've exhausted every means at your disposal, and you don't know where else to turn. Maybe you need salvation, and you don't know how to get it. I remember my prayer. I grew up in church. I went to church all the time. I got little pins. I think it was 7 years without missing a Sunday. I was decked out. But I wasn't saved. I had made attempts, but it didn't count because I wasn't really serious. I was just trying to get out of trouble. You know, all of us get religion when we get in trouble. And there's nobody more religious than a drunk. Man, you start talking to a drunk, I know I need Jesus. But the Bible says that I can take some wine for my stomach's sake. So maybe I took a little too much. What do you think? We're trying in all the wrong directions to do the right thing. But we're not serious about it. This mama was serious. And she got right to the point. And we can identify with that. And maybe what you need can be furnished by salvation. You need peace. You need hope. You need a reason to keep going. Maybe what you need is restoration and forgiveness. I want my life to change. I'm tired of this kind of living. There's an answer. His name is Jesus. Whatever your need in life might be today, you should take a lesson from this woman and get that need to Jesus. Give it to Him. Regardless of what you're facing today, the answer is found there. He can move your mountain. He can meet your need. He can change your life. He can forgive your sin. He can touch your heart and the hearts of your loved ones. You name it, He can do it. But you have to get it to Him. Get that need to Jesus. If you don't get it there, why should He do it? Don't be afraid to call on Him. He is listening. He is desiring to help. He is for you. He is for you. We said it 4, 5, 6 times. He is for you. He invites you to come. I don't care what your status in life is. He invites you to come. Matthew 11:28 says, "Come unto me, all of you who are heavy and laden, and I'll give you rest." Isaiah 55:1-3. "Come, all of you who are thirsty, come to the waters. And you who have no money, come, buy and eat. Come, buy wine and milk without money and without cost." It's free to come to Jesus. You don't have to bear your burden alone. You don't have to walk this pathway by yourself. Bring it to Jesus because He cares. Hebrews chapter 4 verse 15 says, He is our high priest who is touched with our infirmity. He knows exactly what you need, and He can help. Because in that very next verse, Hebrews 4:16 says, Come boldly and confident to His throne and receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. Well, she got to Jesus. He was surrounded by His disciples. He was going in this direction. And she started crying after Him. The disciples were saying, Get rid of her. She's bothering us. But this woman was persistent. And the following verses bring that to light. This woman comes to Jesus for help, and when she doesn't get the response that she desires, she stays after Jesus until she gets what she desperately needs. Every obstacle, and listen, there's obstacles to faith. Every time you start to rise up in faith, Satan will throw everything, including the kitchen sink, in front of you. He'll do everything to stop you, to hinder you. He does not want you to succeed, but Jesus does. So there was obstacles in her way. These verses reveal many of those obstacles. To see that her need was met and her daughter was healed, this woman had to overcome every one of those obstacles. And it seems like she faced resistance at every turn. Yet she persisted and she achieved her goal. Let's examine what the barriers that she faced and overcame were. By desperation and faith, she got past every one of them. Number one, she overcame race. She was of the wrong race. Matthew 15:21 and 22 says, leaving that place, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon, and a Canaanite woman from that vicinity came to Him, crying out, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly. So verse 21 says that she was from the region of Tyre and Sidon. That's not good. Those are Gentile reasons. Verse 22 adds a little bit to it. She was a Canaanite. This tells us two things about this mother. The first thing, and that's what that line is for on your outline, she was descended from a cursed people. This tells us two things about that mother. She was descended from a cursed people. When Joshua led the children of Israel into the land of Canaan, they had been commanded by God to totally destroy the Canaanites. In Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 2. Don't have time to go there. So she was a member of a doomed race. Jesus knew that. The disciples, they knew that. And here was this Canaanite woman crying out to Jesus, help me, help me. Her people were to be destroyed way back. She was a member of a doomed race, and she was crying out to Jesus. Secondly, she was from a region that was known as a vile rituals that they performed. This woman had 2 huge strikes right up front. From the very start, there was no hope. But she persisted. Point 2, she had to overcome religion. She came to Jesus and called out to him and said, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me." Here was a Gentile mother crying out to a Jewish Messiah. She had no right to come to Jesus through the door of Judaism. And that was the door that opened. "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me." That was one of the stances of the Judaism followers. He is a son of David. She was a Gentile, and he gave her the response that she deserved. He didn't answer any of it. Not a word. Verse 23. She had to overcome racism. Not only race, not only religion, but racism. She had to overcome that. When the disciples see and hear this Gentile calling out to their Messiah, they react by telling Jesus, "Get rid of her. Send her away." They, the disciples, wanted nothing to do with her. She was not one of their people. She wasn't their kind. In their eyes, she was different, and that was enough to justify them not to care about any needs she had. So they didn't care about her need, and they didn't care about her. So she had to overcome rejection. That's heavy. Race, religion, racism, and rejection. All of that was piled up against her door. As Jesus speaks to this woman in Matthew 15, 23 through 26, he didn't answer anything that she said. So the disciples were urging it, "Get rid of her. She's crying after us, making a scene. We don't like this." So Jesus answers her, and he gives her truth. "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." In other words, Jesus was saying, "You're out of luck. You're the wrong race. I can't help you." And she flung herself, literally flung herself at his feet and knelt before him saying, "Lord, help me." Perhaps there was a please in it. But whether she actually said please or not, we don't know. It doesn't say. But in the emphasis, there was a, "Lord, help me." That please was there. Jesus said, wait a minute, it's not right. It's not proper to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. To our ears, that was awfully harsh. To our hearts, that was so unfair. His words probably shook her to the very core of her being. His words, in their harshness, probably broke her heart. First of all, he ignored her. He didn't answer anything. And it's if he turns an indifferent ear to her cries for help. And then, when he does answer, he tells her that his whole purpose in coming to this world was to reach those of Israel. So when she persisted and she wouldn't move, Jesus tells her that she's a dog and doesn't deserve the children's bread. The disciples rejected her, and now it appears that Jesus is rejecting her also. So she had to overcome, point 5, reality. The reality of this situation is harsh. Her daughter was possessed by a devil. She was a member of a doomed race. The religious men didn't seem to care about her and her situation at all. It must have appeared to her that her situation was hopeless. Some of you are standing in a situation and you're looking at barriers today that are just as high as what she faced. You might be lost and without hope. You know you need Jesus, but you feel like, I don't fit in with them. I have no right to come at all. You know that you're a part of a doomed race, that this world is going to hell in a handbasket, and you can see it everywhere. You have discovered that religion won't work. You need to change. But you've been rejected by religious people everywhere. You feel it, you know it. Yet you still want to see your life change. I got good news for you today. You can come to Jesus. Regardless of any reaction that you receive that seems negative, you can come to Jesus today. Because if you do, John chapter 6 verse 37 says, He will not turn you away. He has made a way. He is the way. He is the truth. He is life. Others have been praying and seeking God about so many matters, so many troubles that are in your heart. You've cried out to him. You've asked him to do this. You've asked him to do that. And he hadn't given you a single answer. No ray of sunshine, no hope and no help. You may be here. You may be watching on your computer, on your phone, and you just feel like giving up. What's the use? Why try? I'm encouraging you today. God's silence is not an indication of God being unwilling to meet your need. God's silence serves as a test of your faith. How desperate are you? How much do you really want to get to him? I remember crying out to Jesus, if you're who this book says you are, I am in serious, serious trouble. And captured inside of that is I'm not going to succeed if you don't help me. God's silence tests your faith. And it reminds us that he operates on a different schedule than we do. God said, my ways are not your ways. They are higher and above your ways. So what obstacles are you facing today? Persist in seeking the Lord. And in his time, you will see every barrier fall. We're never defeated until we quit. We're never overcome. We never fail until we stop. You'll see every barrier fall. Your faith will not be defined by what you receive from God. Your faith will be defined by what it takes to stop you from getting to God. Don't let anything stop you. Every barrier will fall. I promise you. If you don't quit, but you keep on, and you call out, and you cry out, help me. He will help you. So what's stopping you today from getting to him? What's your hindrance? Don't let anything hinder you. Well, my friends, my husband, my wife, my kids, my mom and dad. Oh, you can throw all those things out. But that's not what's stopping you. What's stopping you is you giving up. Don't give up.